Um, Welcome to Christ Church Balham and this little series, Big Questions, that we're doing. My name is Connor, and I'm on the staff at CCB. We really wanted to do this Big Questions because we wanted everyone at this time, while we're kind of locked away at our homes, and have the ability to maybe think a bit more, to give people an opportunity to really think through some of these big questions. So we're cracking off with a big one. Won't Christianity take away my freedom? We're kind of feeling this a bit acutely at the moment. We're 7 or maybe 8 weeks into lockdown. And if we're honest, we don't really like it. We don't really like when people take away our freedom. But we haven't just started this in lockdown. This has been one of the kind of cultural stories that we have been hearing, well, for years. I'm going to kind of hopefully prove that to you, that freedom has become our ultimate goal. I'm going to take you to 3 places, 3 kind of cultural anthems of the last 20 years. Let's start with a movie that came out in 2006, changed many teenagers' life, High School Musical. And what is High School Musical about at its core? It's about casting off people's expectations of what it looks like to be sporty or nerdy and breaking free to become who you really are. I mean, you know this song, but I'm going to give you some lyrics. You know the world can see us in a way that's different to who we are. Then a couple lines later, we're breaking free, we're soaring, we're flying. There's not a star in heaven that we can't reach. It's freedom. But importantly, you become free when you shake off people's expectations and you look at who you really are. This kind of theme came up again, and this time a queen sang it, Queen Elsa, and she sings, "It's time to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Let it go, let it go." Freedom. Let go the restrictions, let go the expectations, let go of anything that hinders your freedom. And what does Elsa do? She goes off and she becomes who she is, this ice-powered princess. And my personal favourite, this is me from The Greatest Showman. After what must have been a lifetime of being put down for Letty Lutz, the bearded lady, she sings, "When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm going to send a flood, I'm going to drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am whom I'm meant to be. This is me." See, we all want freedom, and our culture tells us you become free when you break free, let go, drown out, look into yourself and find out who you really are. This is me. And it's massively compelling, isn't it? We want that kind of freedom. And doesn't Christianity fly straight into the face of that kind of freedom? Doesn't it tell me that there's restrictions, that there's rules? It tells me how I should live. Surely Christianity can't be freedom. In a moment, I'm going to quite heavily critique the "this is me" kind of freedom. But first, I did want to say, it has brought some really good things, hasn't it? See, it is wrong to put people in a box. It is wrong that some people feel like they need to conceal and not feel. It is wrong to outcast people for something that they can't change. And all those things have been rightly challenged in these anthems. But I'm going to suggest that trying to find freedom by looking in yourself does not bring freedom, just a new kind of slavery. Let me give 4 big problems to this cultural story, this view of freedom. First of all, it's lonely. See, building an ice castle, putting up barriers to keep kind of hurtful people out is really good at keeping people out. But that's kind of a problem, isn't it? It's really good at keeping people out. I think this becomes a really big problem when, as humans, we're kind of forced to ask the biggest questions in life. And the answer that we're given is look inside. But if that's my answer, well, I have no friend to help me, no friend to guide me. As humans, we're kind of like a man with amnesia waking up on a moving train. He's got some big questions. Where have I come from? Where am I going? And why am I here at all? And culture seems to say, well, look inside. Why not try journaling? But that just doesn't give us answers. And we end up spending many nights trying to find these answers alone. It's lonely. Problem number 2, it's just too simple. I mean, it's great in the movies. They sing their song, they find themselves, and then the movie ends. But real life doesn't just end. It carries on. Real life is much more complex than that. See, we have really deep held desires that change and that compete. How do we pick the one that's really us? Think about this. What does freedom look like for the 60-year-old granddad who's just had a heart attack? He really wants to see his grandkids, but if he's honest, he really loves going out and eating fatty food with his friends. Which is more him? Or think about the career woman. She wants to have a career, but she also wants to have a family. What does freedom look like for her? Which decision is more her? And also, here's a big problem. What happens when we look inside ourselves and find desires that we're ashamed of? We like to think we're free, but can any of us go 1 week without doing, saying, or thinking something we don't want to? No. Thirdly, this view of freedom, well, ultimately, it's crushing. See, if we have to look inside ourselves, well, the onus is on us to create an identity that we're proud of. And who has ever done that? Our life is like this big, open, blank canvas, and we are terrified of making a mistake. Heidi Grant, a social psychologist, I think summed it up really well with this quote. You must be perfectly awesome in order to keep believing that you are. So you live in quiet terror of making mistakes and feel devastated when you do. Your only defense is to refocus your attention on all the things you do well, mentally stroking your own ego until it has forgotten that horrible episode of unawesomeness and moved on to something more satisfying. When you think about it, this doesn't sound like a recipe for success, does it? It doesn't sound like a recipe for freedom. See, we're told to look inside and find our glorious inner hero. But what if our inner hero turns out to be elusive? What if we discover the hero within turns out to be weak, vulnerable, and dependent? See, we might throw off the expectations of people around us, but we're just left with our own unbearable expectations. It's crushing. Number 4, it's relationally destructive. This is me attitude of freedom, well, it falls apart when it comes to relationships. Because loving relationships rely on giving up freedom for the sake of someone else. Imagine if you really used these lines in actual relationships. So take someone, your partner, your father, your mother, anything, and think about this. You say to them, someone that relies on you, I'm going to go on holiday for the weekend. They turn around to you and say something like, well, are you not going to help with the kids? And you say, well, no rights, no wrongs, no rules for me. I'm free. Or think about a housemate who won't do the washing up. You come and you challenge them about this, and they turn around and go, this is me. I don't do washing up. Now, it's ridiculous, but it makes this point, doesn't it? You have to limit your freedom to be in relationship. But sometimes, have to is maybe the wrong word. Sometimes, it's we get to. We get to limit our freedom for the sake of relationship. Think about your closest relationship, father, mother, brother, sister, anything. Think about the person who, when you're with them, you know you are most loved, most secure, most free to be the real you. The chances are it's that relationship which is most restrictive, with the least freedom. I'm getting married in a month, and I'm literally signing away my freedom. I'm signing away half my stuff. I'm signing away my opportunity to have other romantic relationships. I'm signing away my time. But I will do it gladly. I will do it with a smile on my face. Why? Because that relationship is better. The security of love lets you be yourself. The restrictions let you be vulnerable. Restrictions, far from limiting our freedom, in relationship, it's what gives us freedom. And isn't that better? And I think this really helps us when we come to think of the Bible story. See, at the heart of the Bible story is a relationship. I want us to look at the Bible story, and I want us to compare it to culture's story and ask the question, what brings more freedom? I'm splitting the Bible story into 3 acts. Act 1, we were made by God for a relationship with Him. And if that is true, well, then that means that there is finally someone who knows us better than we know ourselves. We're not forced to desperately search inside ourselves, coming up empty every time. We're not left alone to figure out our identity, our value, and how to flourish. There is someone who really can tell us where we've come from, where we're going, and why we're here. What a relief if that is true. Act 2. Sin broke our relationship with God. See, the Bible says that we sin, that we turn our back on God and look to live and rule our life our own way. Now, this is terrible. But if we think about it, it actually goes some way to explaining why I am so messed up. Why I'm sometimes ashamed of my desires. Why I simultaneously want to live for myself, but am sad when I do. Our problem is that we turn from God. It explains why when we try to find freedom ourselves, we end up more enslaved. The third act, and maybe the best act, Jesus died to bring us back into relationship, setting us free. I'm just going to look at one verse in the Bible, in Mark's Gospel. For even the Son of Man, that's Jesus, did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. See, God, Jesus, limited his freedom to pay for ours. He came to serve, not be served. At the cross, he ransomed us. He bought us back at a cost to set us free from the slavery we put ourselves in. And if that is true, that means God is very committed to this relationship. He is not a guy on a cloud barking orders at us. He's a Savior that comes to us. If the Bible story is true, then what is on offer is the most secure, most loving relationship in history. It would be the kind of relationship we get to face restrictions for. The kind of relationship we long for. So, won't Christianity take away my freedom? Well, if you listen to a culture's story, then yes, it will. But the thing is it freedom at all? But if you want the freedom of a loving relationship with a God who not only made you, but then died for you, then Christianity is the only thing that will ever set us free. That's the end of our first big question. And I want to say that the conversation doesn't need to end here. The church/my details will be in the description below this video. Please do feel free to get in contact. Feel free to come join in one of our groups that explores Christianity by reading Mark's Gospel. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll be back again soon for some more big questions. Thank you.